There comes a time in every soul's journey when the noise of the world grows loud, and the heart whispers a deeper truth. In the silence between chaos, in the emptiness after success, there are people across the West searching, not for wealth, not for fame, but for meaning, and it is there, in that sacred space of searching, that they are finding something they never expected. Islam, not through force, not through pressure, but through peace, through curiosity, through truth. So today, I ask you not to judge, not to fear, but to listen, because when a faith grows, not in the shadows but in the light of the West, we owe it to ourselves to ask, why is Islam the fastest growing religion in the West? You see, I've always believed that we are all walking each other home, and along that walk, we stumble, we rise, we question, we seek. In my journey of listening to thousands of voices from New York to Nairobi, from Los Angeles to London, I've seen a pattern. A hunger. People are hungry for something real. They are exhausted from consumerism. They are tired of shallow definitions of happiness. They are over the temporary and craving the eternal, and in that search, they find themselves hearing a call that is not loud, but deep. A call that asks them not to escape the world, but to surrender to something higher, to walk with purpose, to live with discipline. To honor the sacred, that call, is Islam, and it's not just immigrants or heritage Muslims. It's men and women who once lived lives of secularism, of atheism, of materialism, turning their hearts toward the one God, Allah. Let's not just hear the statistics. Let's feel the stories behind them. Every year, thousands in the West embrace Islam, from Paris to Chicago, from Berlin to Toronto, and it's not always on a mountaintop. Sometimes it happens in a prison cell, sometimes in a university library, sometimes in the quiet tears of a mother at night, and often it begins with a simple question: why are Muslims so devoted to their faith? They see Muslims fasting in Ramadan with joy. They see Muslims praying 5 times a day in airports, in offices, in parks. They see Muslims choosing modesty over fashion, discipline over indulgence, and they wonder, what kind of inner strength is this? What kind of peace do they have that I don't? And so the journey begins, not in anger, not in rebellion, but in a thirst to understand. And the more they learn about the Quran, about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, about the concept of one God, about justice, mercy, equality, the more they feel something awaken inside of them. Not conversion by coercion, but transformation by revelation. And so, with heart, with humility, let's explore the 5 reasons why Islam is growing soul by soul in the West. I have always believed that each of us is walking each other home. On that path we fall, we rise, we question, we seek. And what I've come to realize, after listening to thousands of stories, from the vibrant avenues of New York to the buzzing cafes of Nairobi, from the bustling streets of London to the quiet corners of Los Angeles, is that people are not just hungry. They are starving for something authentic, something that doesn't change with likes, trends, or market demand. They are exhausted from consumerism that promises happiness and delivers emptiness. Tired of social constructs that define worth through appearance, assets, and applause. Weary of the moral ambiguity that keeps shifting goalposts. And in that hunger, many find themselves not pulled, but gently drawn to something different. Something steady, something that doesn't demand perfection but invites transformation. They hear a call. It's not loud, it doesn't scream, but it echoes deep within. A call that doesn't say, run away from the world, but rather rise above it. A call that says, discipline is not a chain, it's a key. A call that invites them to something higher. That call, my friend, is Islam. And this isn't just the story of immigrants or the children of those who were born into the faith. This is about men and women who once defined their lives through secularism, who prided themselves on logic alone, who trusted only what they could see and touch, and now they're returning. To God, to meaning, to a sense of the sacred. Let's not just list conversion numbers, let's feel what's behind them. Every year across the Western world, thousands of souls embrace Islam. It happens in the quiet solitude of a prison cell. In the late night thoughts of a college student in a dorm room, in the tears of a mother kneeling beside her child's bed, in the weary heart of a man who has everything money can buy but feels spiritually bankrupt. The journey often begins not with rebellion but with awe. They see Muslims fasting not as a burden but as a joyful act of devotion. They observe Muslims pausing to pray at the airport, in the office, by the side of a highway. They see a woman wearing her hijab not as oppression but as empowerment. They witness Muslims choosing restraint in a world that glorifies indulgence. And something inside them says, what kind of peace is this? What kind of inner power gives birth to such outer discipline? They begin to ask questions, simple yet profound. Why do Muslims pray like that? Why do they fast with such joy? Why do they seem anchored when everyone else is drifting? And so the journey deepens. They begin to read, to explore, to sit with Muslims, to ask. And in that seeking, they learn about the Quran, its beauty, its depth, its clarity. They learn about the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, his mercy, his leadership, his unwavering dedication to justice and compassion. They encounter the concept of Tawheed, the oneness of God, not as a dogma, but as a liberation. They discover a way of life that is whole, not fragmented, structured, not scattered. Islam doesn't pull you away from life. It refines how you live it. In a world where truth seems fluid and moral standards are negotiable, Islam stands firm, like a lighthouse amid a stormy sea, unchanging, unapologetic, and that stability brings comfort. Because in that divine structure, people find a freedom they never knew they needed. The West often preaches, follow your feelings. But feelings are fleeting. They change with moods, with seasons, with songs on a playlist. Islam says, follow the truth. Follow the one who created feelings, not the feelings themselves. And in that submission there is serenity. Prayer 5 times a day, it's not a restriction. It's a rhythm. A sacred pause to realign, to breathe, to remember. Fasting, it's not deprivation. It's liberation from the chains of desire. And suddenly, the people who once feared rules begin to love them. Because they understand, boundaries, when set by the divine, are not cages. They are wings. Islam honors Jesus, peace be upon him, not as a rival to their beliefs, but as a revered prophet. It uplifts Moses. It speaks of Abraham as a friend of God. It connects the past to the present in a continuum of revelation. And then it goes even further. It declares something radical, revolutionary, and deeply needed. No Arab is better than a non-Arab. No white is better than black. Superiority belongs only to those of piety. In a world scarred by racism, Islam came with equity over a millennium ago. That is why when Malcolm X made the pilgrimage to Mecca, he said, I have eaten from the same plate, drank from the same cup, slept in the same bed with people whose eyes were the bluest of blue, whose hair was the blondest of blonde, and we were one. Islam doesn't belong to a race, a region, or a people. It belongs to truth, and the West, consciously or not, is hearing its call. Look closer, and you'll see that many of those embracing Islam are women. Not forced, not manipulated, but empowered. Women who were told by the world that their worth lay in their waistline or their wardrobe are finding in Islam a powerful counter-narrative. A faith that says, you are more than what the eye can see. You are honored not for how much skin you show, but for how much light you carry. They wear hijab not as surrender to men, but as a declaration of self-worth. They pray not as a chore, but as a conversation with the divine. They say, for the first time in my life I feel seen, truly seen, not by society, but by my Creator. And then there's the matter of peace. Not comfort, not ease, peace. You can live in a mansion and still feel like a prisoner. You can have the latest phone and still feel disconnected. You can travel the world and still be lost, because peace doesn't come from the outside. It rises from within. And Islam feeds that peace. It nurtures the soul. It doesn't promise a life without hardship, but it gives hardship meaning. It says every pain is a purification, every loss has wisdom, every tear is recorded. So why are people in the West turning to Islam? Because their souls are stirring, because their hearts are whispering, because they are remembering that they were never meant to worship money or fame or even themselves. They were made to worship the One, the Eternal, the Merciful, and that stillness, that silence they once feared, it's no longer an absence, it's an invitation. It's saying, come home, come back to the One who never left. Because Islam offers clarity in confusion. Because Islam offers discipline in chaos. Because Islam offers dignity in a world that often degrades. Because Islam offers peace in the deepest, truest sense of the word. And the West, slowly but surely, is listening, one heart at a time, one awakening at a time.